Welcome to the Cloud4all Service Synthesizer tool, a tool that combines a set of web services in order to enhance user accessibility. The tool itself is a RESTful web service. JSON format is used for both input and output of the service synthesizer tool. Let's see how it works. The first supported web service translates the content of a web page. The user provides the URL of the web page and the target language. Then, the service returns the URL of the translated web page. The second supported web service changes the font family, font size, text color and the background color of a web page. The user provides the font family, the font size, the preferred text color, and the preferred background color. Then, the service returns the URL of the transformed web page. The third supported service takes as input a URL and a preferred language code, and generates a new URL. When this new URL is opened in a web browser, the initial URL is opened using the Web Anywhere screen reader and the voice used corresponds to the preferred language. The fourth supported service searches for images with no alternative text and recognizes automatically the content of the image. Then, the service adds a corresponding alternative text for each of identified images and returns the URL of the generated web page. For instance, if we look at the source code of this web page, we will see that this image does not have an alternative text. On the other side, if we open the URL that the service returned, we will see that the service has identified the content of the image and has added an alternative text for this image. More specifically, the service identified that the picture shows 6 people. It also identified the gender of each person and estimated the age. By this way, the accessibility of the image was increased. Another service is used to overcome the barriers of the CAPTCHA images that are generally inaccessible. The service takes as input the URL of an image containing CAPTCHA, identifies the text contained in the CAPTCHA, and returns it to the user. In our case, this is the image given as input, and this is the recognized text. Another supported web service transforms text into speech. The user provides the preferred text. And the service returns a corresponding MP3 file.
Welcome to this video presentation.
Some location-based web services are also supported. For instance, this web service takes as input an IP address and returns information like the city, country, latitude, longitude, etc. that correspond to this IP. The most interesting functionality of the service synthesizer tool is that it can combine web services. This means that the output of one service can be used as input in another service. The user can define the execution sequence of the preferred services using drag and drop. Then, the mapping between inputs and outputs has to be configured. Here, the user provides a URL as input to the first web service and maps the output of the first web service as input for the second service. Each input of each web service can take a value manually provided by the user or the output of a previous service. Then, all the services are called sequentially. Here, the JSON object given as input to the service synthesizer tool is presented. You can see the input for each web service separately, as well as the mappings between inputs and outputs. And this is the JSON object returned by the service synthesizer tool. You can see the output of each web service separately. The output of the first web service is the web page with the identified images. The output of the second web service is the web page with the preferred font and colors. And the output of the third web service is the previous web page translated. When the cursor is over the text, the original text is also presented. A new service can be easily supported by the service synthesizer tool. The user can select the category of the new service and also provide a name for the service and a reference URL. In order to describe the input of the new service, the user has to provide a JSON schema. Similarly, another JSON schema describes the output of the web service. As you can see, a link for this new service has been added to the user interface. Some Java code has been automatically generated to support the integration of this new service by the synthesizer tool. New Java packages and Java classes have been generated for the input and output of the new service in correspondence to the JSON schemas provided by the user. The main function of the new web service is automatically generated partially. Of course, some Java code has to be manually written by the user to describe what the web service should actually do. The graphical user interface is also automatically updated to support the easy execution of this new web service. Thank you for watching the video presentation of the service synthesizer tool, which has been developed in the context of the Cloud4all European project.